Welcome. It's the Curiosity Clique, episode 1. Today we're going to be introducing our podcast, letting you guys know what we're all about. It's hosted by Seif and Aly and Ali Anwar. We're going to be talking to you guys what this is about, breaking down what we're interested in, breaking down the goals of the podcast, letting you guys in on some current events, letting you guys in on some of our analysis of the current events, some of our opinions and takes, and that's going to be this episode. Let's start it off with what is the podcast? What is Curiosity Clique? To start off, the Curiosity Clique is about making smart cool again. We really want to destigmatize academia, destigmatize intelligence and all this stuff, and bridge all of our interests kind of together. We're hoping to bring in a lot of interesting guests. We just finished filming a podcast with 2 amazing basketball players, and we're also going to be talking a lot more in-depth and a lot more intelligent. We're going to be doing a bunch of analysis and holding ourselves to a high academic standard. Now, this isn't going to be the best. At the end of the day, we're 2 idiot 19-year-olds. We're both in college. We're both in first year. But we're trying our best to bring our highest level of intelligence, bring our best to the table, and bring you guys along through a series of audio logs as we go on our pursuance of knowledge. Now, in order to do this, we're going to be fostering a clique of curious individuals. We're going to be bringing in a lot of different people. And as well, we're going to be talking about our ranging interests. That includes rap, hip-hop culture, business, finance, political theory, physics, philosophy, and history. Now, that's the main thing for the introduction. I think we're ready to go. Ali, take it away.
So, just to get right into the meaty stuff, we're going to start with some breaking news out of Ukraine, because that's what everybody's life is about now. Attack on nuclear site, a dangerous new escalation in Russian invasion, U.S. says. So, there's reports of a Ukrainian nuclear plant in Zaporizhzhia, in a small city, right? Population around 30,000 people. Reports have been saying that the nuclear plant is now captured by Russian military. There was shelling reported yesterday. And so now there's new fears of a Chernobyl fallout type disaster. What do you think?
I think the escalation is getting kind of scary. Like, I'm really planning on explaining to the audience what's going on in Ukraine because they might be missing out. But I think this level of escalation, it just seems to keep getting worse and worse and worse.
And I think just like escalating it to that standard, Putin has now become a nuclear terrorist, and he's woken up the EU's military complex, the American military-industrial complex. I think he doesn't make it through this invasion. Anyways, let me get on to the next big title. The U.S. takes aim at Russian oligarchs in fresh sanctions. So we saw the first wave of economic sanctions hit Russia, and these sanctions would most likely not affect Putin directly. And so the U.S. has decided to take an approach at sanctioning his oligarchs and his cronies.
So his like top officials.
Putin's cronies. So
why is this important?
Well, when you sanction Putin's cronies, you then increase the how can I put this? They'll then advocate to end the war because they have vested interest in the war ending at this point.
So it's increasing a lot of pressure on Russia by hitting, or at least on Putin by hitting it right where it hurts, where he might not care that much about his country, but now that it's his friends and all that stuff, it's a lot more pressure put.
They're trying to exploit the oligarchs' political influence in Russia, at least.
So this would be like people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos in America being sanctioned by Russia, and the other way around if America was participating in a war.
Well, in Russia, I feel like the oligarchy is much stronger than
in America.
Than the elite class in the United States, because the oligarchy had the assets directly distributed to them after the fall of the Soviet Union. So that's why they control like large major oil drilling sites in Russia. You know, a lot of the Russian people get exploited nowadays because the wealth is concentrated at the top. Very corrupt system. But the sanctions will be targeting 26 Russia and Ukraine-based individuals and 7 Russian entities. We've already seen 1 Russian bank or 2 Russian banks get cut off from the SWIFT financial system. We've seen 1 Russian airline get taken off the global reserve of Russian airlines, or the global reserve of world airlines. So now getting into like more minute and menial stuff in the Ukraine-Russia war, we could talk about the president Zelensky and the good job he's been doing.
Go on, get on what you think.
A big claim Putin made before the war is that Zelensky, or like a big claim Putin made before the war is that he's denazifying Ukraine. It's quite ironic because Ukraine has a Jewish president who won with a 73% majority. Used to be an actor, but I feel like people see him stepping up now. Whether he's in Ukraine or not, that's still unknown, but he claims to be in Ukraine. So what do you think about how President Zelensky stepped up? Do you think like Trudeau would step up like that?
I mean, would Trudeau? Absolutely not. And I think that parallel is important. Like Zelensky, it seems to me, he's kind of like the Ukrainian version of Trudeau, where he's kind of like this pretty boy, like kind of cool, like kind of like people's person kind of guy, or at least what Trudeau's dad was back in the day, like from what I've heard and everything. So I think that parallel's there, and I definitely don't see a world where Trudeau would have the balls to actually like be acting like Zelensky is, really standing up for his country. And not just that, he seems to be incredibly humble. I remember reading that he was absolutely, even no matter how it looks, no matter whatever, he's willing to do whatever it takes to negotiate peace just for the sake of his citizens. And it really comes off to me like he cares about his people. And it's interesting that Putin is using this propaganda technique of saying that he's denazifying Ukraine. One thing is though that I've been talking to my friends was, I really feel like if you think that you're immune to propaganda, at least in our perspective, right, you're definitely not. If you can't see why Putin would be doing these things or anything, you're probably the victim of propaganda. And it's hard to unvictimize yourself of that.
The first casualty of war is the truth. It was really powerful.
No, but yeah, exactly. Is we don't actually know what's real, what's not, is because there's people who are getting paid like millions and millions of dollars right now trying to cultivate our mind and shape our brains in a certain way.
And you know what? Deeper than the actual invasion and the war that's been happening, there is a PR war that's been happening on the side of Russia and Ukraine. So the PR war includes Russia targeting Ukraine's racist groups and their like right-wing militia, and you've been seeing the racism, like the problems with racism they've been having, or the,
I get what you're saying. The claims that
at the borders, right? No, have you not?
You're talking about
the border issue? All the issues, and they've how they've not been allowing African immigrants to pass.
So do you think that's being pushed by Putin and the Russians?
That's definitely the Russian narrative. The Russians right now are pushing two narratives in the media.
The whataboutism and the racism of Ukraine. Do you think?
Yeah. So the whataboutism, they put it in the form of condemn war everywhere.
Yeah.
Even though like they're responsible for most of the bombings, but.
And it's ironic that I think it's pretty ironic they're talking about Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, all these different places, when a lot of those places Russia's just as equally involved in as America is. But they're really spinning the narrative right now to be like, okay, we're these big bad guys, right? But look at what you guys have done. Look at what about this? What about that, right? When they were also involved in a lot of those situations.
You want to talk about some Ukrainian propaganda?
Yes. Yeah.
So, have you guys heard have you heard the Ghost of Kyiv story?
Nah, I've seen it posted around.
So there was this Ukrainian folklore that there was a butcher who was a retired army commander, and then he went back on the base. A superior saw him and told him to get back out, start flying. And the tale is this one fighter took down 6 Russian planes. That was fake. Ghost of Kyiv was fake. Did you see that video of the tank running over the car in Ukraine?
No, I didn't. Was that up
on
Twitter and everything?
Yes, it was. Anyways, yeah. That was fake. The report of the old man being in the car, that was fake. That was a Ukrainian tank.
But do you think that this is Ukraine stuff pushing it, or do you think there might be like social media influencers and everything trying to make a quick like buck or a quick name or a quick, you know what I mean?
Ukraine is pushing it to improve their morale, and I understand it. Right now, the Russians, they can't speak about their military successes because it's supposed to be a peacekeeping mission. That's why you don't see Putin flexing and, putting his balls on the table, this and that.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I get what you mean. I think what was really interesting with the Russian situation, right, is that they failed at the Blitzkrieg. I think that was my biggest surprise, was, for people who don't know, Blitzkrieg is the strategy where you want to go and take over a country in 2 to 3 days as quickly as possible. And the way Putin really attacked it was he did this 3-pronged attack where he was up north from Belarus, he was out south from Crimea, and then he was from the east from Moscow. And then the west of Ukraine was all mountains. So it's a very easy invasion, very quick, very, very nice and swift. And he failed. He couldn't get it done. And I think the economic ramifications...
On Russian media, though, Putin just spoke recently, and body language experts and all are saying that he seems frustrated. Even during his recent speech, his most recent speech, you can go check this out, he stands up for about 20 seconds, contemplating whether he should end his speech or not, and then goes back to sitting down. It's obvious that it's not going in his favor.
I don't know, when you say body language, it comes off very pseudoscience. It seems like you can.
Is it going in his favor? Do you see Putin making it past this invasion?
I don't know, because I was just having this debate the other day, or actually I had this debate twice with two different people where they both said that this is the beginning of the fall of Russia, right? Because this was like a really bad like mistake that Putin's making. I feel like they're underestimating Putin, right? To me, it doesn't make sense. Where Putin's been in power for most of like 20 years, I believe there was like a little break where he wasn't the president, but for most of 20 years he's been in power, and he just decides to go into Ukraine, destroy his country economically, and he's not. And his whole team of advisors isn't double thinking these things, aren't thinking twice. I think there's a bigger hand being played here. I think what's going on right now is he wanted to call out and see NATO, and specifically I think America's hands. He wanted to see what do they have available to use. And what he found out was they're willing to sanction absolutely everything except for oil. Now, I've been looking into this. As far as I know, there have been no sanctions put out on Russian oil. I'm actively looking. I haven't seen anything. But as far as I know, there have been no sanctions on Russian oil, and Russian oil is flowing freely. Now, obviously, we all know oil prices have risen. I believe this is because of fear that sanctions are going to come out. But what this really says is that the American economy is weak, and when America and NATO are flexing like they're ready to go to war with anybody, they're ready to do this, they're the big dogs, they're ready to do anything. And then this guy comes in, he's invading Ukraine, right? Really like a big call out right in their face. He's calling their bluff. They don't respond militarily. They don't put in any military units. And not just that, they say all we're going to do is sanctions, but we're not even going to sanction you all the way. We're still going to fund your war by buying your oil. So what does that say to Putin? What does that say to Xi Jinping out in China? That what's the new world order? That's what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that countries, or at least imperialist countries, or countries with imperialist dreams, are only now fighting back against American containment. I think American containment is so out of line. Can you imagine Americans going to Vietnam because they thought that if Vietnam became communist, the rest of Asia would fall in a domino effect?
Well, what do you mean by
that's the same thing right now.
Explain American containment. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so American containment is how the United States remains a global power, right? They don't allow any of the other competing powers.
They have their foot on everybody's neck, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So think about NATO, right? NATO started on the west side of in North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So it was a organization created only for the countries of the North Atlantic to protect that area.
Yeah.
Sorry. I hit the mic.
Yeah.
Anyways, and now NATO's been expanding further east, even adding on non-European partners.
Yeah. So you think that they're building this huge control, like what you're talking about when you say American containment, is the huge like control that America has.
Yeah.
So
because you got NATO and BRICS.
Yeah.
BRICS is the Russian-led
conglomerate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a conglomerate, but it's the Russian-led group. BRICS is Russia, India, South Africa. Forgot what the C and the B were.
Okay.
Brazil.
Yeah.
And I forgot what the C was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've got the NATO and the BRICS. BRICS has not seen as much or nearly as much success as NATO. You can see NATO NATO expanded all into West Europe. And now the biggest tragedy of this war, I think, is the Ukrainian people being used as a mouthpiece for the GOP.
For the GOP? What do you mean by that?
The good old party, the Republican Party in the United States. Their agenda
what do you mean by
is
used as a mouthpiece. Like, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so the agenda was to contain Russia through building a military bases and creating a military establishing military presence in Ukraine. Obviously, that's very dangerous to Russia's big land borders. Russia's the biggest country in the world, right?
Yeah.
And
Ukraine is right by Moscow.
There's a lot of threat, especially having a democratic country close to an autocratic country, or like a dictator-led country. Putin doesn't want the Russian people to see a model of democracy working so close to them.
You know, this is the mainstream message, the mainstream opinion that I keep hearing about, right? But I'm kind of hesitant on it. I feel like this is a big stretch on everything. I feel like that this battle between democracy and autocracy isn't as prevalent as people are making it out to be, right? Or at least I think this is part of the Ukraine or the Western propaganda that's being pushed out, because I don't think that's Putin's biggest thing. I think they're both playing this game where even Putin's saying we don't want NATO around or whatever, we want to denazify, and then the West is saying they're scared of this, they're scared of that. But I don't think that's really what's going on. I think the main thing is economics. Like, maybe that's a portion. I agree, it has to be multifaceted. But I think there's a big economic incentive where, isn't it strange that Putin's doing all of this right after COVID's coming to an end? Right after, I remember hearing that the United States has printed 40% of its dollars over the past like year or 2 years, right? Where they've totally inflated. Inflation's gone out of control. We're at about 8% inflation in the United States, which is absolutely insane, right? And I think Putin is seeing that America is weak right now, and he wants to start pressing. And he's starting to noticing where it hurts. And him and Xi Jinping are looking to take advantage of this moment, solve some internal domestic problems, as well as start threatening the narrative of the United States as the big dog, the big this, the new world order that the United States set up after 1945.
I think this is one of the greatest things to actually happen to the American economy, because now we're going to see jobs boom, the military-industrial complex is going to pick up, all this military expenditure is going to increase.
I disagree. I think,
bro, it's always great in the time of war. That's when there's the most jobs. That's when the economy is going to be.
Unless you're burdened with a horrible amount of debt, right? And not just that, your return on debt is near zero. Like, here's a statistic: is the marginal revenue product of debt is 30 cents since 2008, and it's been fluctuating up and down around that number.
What is that?
So marginal revenue product of debt means for every dollar of debt that you take on, how much are you getting out of it, right? So what that means is if you lend me $1, I would use that dollar to make another dollar, probably, right? But instead, what's happening is you're lending me $1, and I'm only making 30 cents off of the dollar that you lend me. So then I keep getting under this bigger and bigger and bigger pile of debt. And this has been happening really like ever since 1971, when we went off the gold standard in the States, right? Ever since the States went off the gold standard, they've been incurring debt like crazy. But it's been happening exponentially ever since 2008, and even worse since COVID, when the government was putting in quantitative easing, monetization of debts, and all these different checks that they were giving out to the people are really, really, really messing up the economy. They are at the point where they can't really be affording to just start making business boom again. There is this mainstream idea that war is super, super, super helpful, that war is great for the economy, war is great for this. But I think right now America's in the position where this can actually screw them over. And I think the biggest thing is, like, Ray Dalio, this is kind of like the thing you get at, is Ray Dalio. He's a billionaire investor. He started the hedge fund Bridgewater, which I think it manages around $100 billion in assets. I need to check that. But he just released a new book called Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order. And in that book, he points out that right now America is the reserve currency for the world. Is most debts are denominated in American dollars, most transactions are denominated in American dollars, and the American dollar is a fiat currency. So what that means is that America, if they want to buy oil, they can devalue everybody's debts, right? So they can print money, and where that new money is coming from is they're stealing it from every single loan that every single person has, every single dollar you have in your bank account. The American government is stealing money from that.
By decreasing its value.
By decreasing its value. They steal value from that and push it in to purchase oil, to purchase this, to purchase that, to fund this, to fund that, whatever it is. And this is a unique power they have right now.
And you're explaining inflation tax just for...
Yeah, exactly. Inflation tax, yeah. So right now the position is that Russia and China can put threats to this American reserve currency status. And if America loses this reserve currency status, it's going to be in a whole different position. Right now, as you know, China has been... They have the whole world by their economic balls, right? They're completely, they have all of Africa, all of India, all these different places. They're deep in their pockets, right? And I believe it was Russia has about $130 billion in gold reserves, while China has about $90 to $100 billion in gold reserves as well. It seems like they're preparing to start doing transactions in gold, right? And obviously, like, if you hear like all these crypto nerds, they're always talking about how the fiat currency is going to go away, that the dollar is going to go away, and that it's going to be replaced by either Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever it is. I'm making the same argument a lot of them are making, except without saying Bitcoin or Ethereum. I'm saying the gold standard is going to come back, that everybody's been using for almost 5,000 years.
Can we assume civilian casualties will increase now in the Ukraine war?
Absolutely.
Because it's clear that the Russians were not targeting civilian assets in the beginning, But now it's kind of a gray area.
Well, they did that vacuum bomb. Did you hear
Yeah,
about
did
that?
the vacuum bomb? Was there a death toll released on that?
I don't know, because I got news about that, and then it kind of went away right after. I actually don't have a lot of information on that. I'm just remembering that right now. But they were saying that the vacuum bomb is the second worst bomb that
It creates a vacuum of oxygen, and then apparently it can make bodies disintegrate
or something like that. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. But yeah, go on. What are you getting at?
I wanted to ask you if you'd see more civilian casualties now that the war has been going on. I feel like the way to let me rephrase this. What a dictator would do now to cripple or lower morale in Ukraine would be to attack civilian assets. We've seen like carpet bombing recently happen in the city of Kharkiv. So I think Putin is trying to make an example to the people in Kyiv, telling them, look, this is what's happening to Kharkiv, the second biggest city in Ukraine. This could be you, because Russian soldiers have now they've surrounded Kyiv completely. When do you think Kyiv falls?
I just want to rephrase one thing. I'm just searching it up. It seems like that the vacuum bomb, it isn't absolutely confirmed. It seems like I remember reading specifically that a diplomat said that the vacuum bomb was used, but it seems to be that there aren't any like official sources and that it hasn't been officially confirmed. So I just want to clear that up.
What can you believe anymore?
Yeah, you never know, right? But on that note, if Kyiv falls, I think it's almost inevitable. I think like although it's really hurting the Russian economy, I think he's falling for the what's it called, the gambler's fallacy, where you already spent so much money, so you might as well keep going. You know what I mean?
He's too deep in now.
He's too deep in. So and does he have the resources to do it? Absolutely. I think what he's really surprised is the strength and pride of the Ukrainian people, which is honestly, I've even been surprised about it, that they're withstanding the Russian.
What do you think of the foreign conscription that's been going on? 18,000 nationals, or like 18,000 soldiers or 18,000 volunteers have went back to Ukraine to fight. Some of them Ukraine nationals outside the country, some of them just dedicated to the fight for democracy.
I think that's really insane. Like if that is really happening right now, right? Again, propaganda, whatever. But if that is really happening, I think it really shows the beauty of humans, right? The beauty of human nature. I can never, especially just on a personal note, I could never see myself fighting another person's war. You know what I mean? And just seeing that people are like willingly going and fighting and all this stuff, especially since everybody's making memes about, oh, we're going to get drafted, we're going to do this, how are we going to draft dodge? You know what I mean? Seeing people like willingly volunteer themselves up to just fight for another country because they feel like we want to protect them, we want to fight for their rights and everything.
Can we speak on other people or other entities supporting Ukraine in the fight? Anonymous, they started taking down some Russian websites, devastating the Russian infrastructure. But now, recently, apparently they hacked the space station and disrupted the software on the space station, on the Russian space station, and Russian satellites.
Is that accurate news? I don't know. It says as reported. I don't know.
As reported by Vice, hackers appear to have breached one subdomain of the IKI website. Although other subdomains remain online, the compromised part of the site relates to the World Space Observatory Ultraviolet Project, so some space shit. A project similar to the Hubble Space Telescope and planned for launch in 2025. So the Russian space Russian space agency has now been hacked.
I think it's interesting to see. I mean, one thing that's funny is I remember as a kid thinking like Anonymous were like the coolest people like ever to exist, especially like with the movie like V for Vendetta.
What was their saying? They always had a saying, "We are anonymous, we don't." What?
I don't remember.
What was their saying?
I remember thinking that they were the coolest people in the world. Now they kind of seem a little corny. It seems like the stuff they're doing like all the small little things that they can. I think it's super cool that they're doing this. One thing that kind of comes into mind was they kind of portray themselves as being this group that fights for the silent like minority, you know what I mean? Like they fight for the rights, the human rights and all this stuff, right? And it's weird that they're going against Russia, and then the whataboutism, like why didn't they go against the States during this time or that time or that time? Y'all are the vigilante group.
So their quote was, and I was trying to remember, "We are anonymous, we are legion, we do not forgive, we do not forget, expect us." What kind of nerdy shit is that? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's funny. But I think it's kind of cool. I think it's cool seeing other people, like, especially, what was that thing that Elon Musk was doing?
With the Starlink?
Yeah, the Starlink.
Starlink available to Ukrainians?
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see that stuff. And I think, like, over $1 million.
That's in response to Russian cyber attacks, because the Russian cyber attacks have been trying to...
I know, take away the internet. So then Elon Musk is doing this just, maybe advertisement, maybe whatever. But it seems like out of the goodness of his heart. And I think it's really cool to see that, right? And I think what else is really cool to see is just how people are coming together for this, right? If whether or not it's propaganda, it does seem like most of the world is kind of unified on this stance. That most of the world is seeing this as kind of like gross and or grotesque, and it seems only China is the one that hasn't condemned Russia, and also the UN. Did you see the UN rights thing? So they had this rights council or something. Like they brought in I think it might have been the security. I'm rough on the details, but it was to talk about. I think it was called by Ukraine to talk about humanitarian aid, and all they did was put in Xi Jinping to deny all the Uyghur Muslim stuff, and that's all he did. And then they totally ignored the Russian situation, said we're gonna push it off later. What do you think about the UN being like a complete joke?
The UN and other institutions, part of it, like the IMF and the World Health Organization, are complete jokes. They haven't, the World Health Organization and the IMF have not condemned Russia to this point.
Really?
Yeah, they refer to them as the warring sides.
Wow, that's crazy.
Spineless, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is like it was meant to like, I believe the saying was like to never cause this again or never again or something. It was in response to World War II, right? And I don't know what they thought when they put all of this. Was that the Holocaust?
No, the Holocaust is never forget. Never mind.
Oh, but
it's never again. I think.
I think right. Yeah, that was why the UN came about. But I think what's interesting about it is that if you put all the countries that are probably most at risk of doing a human, a humanitarian crisis, you put all of them onto a council, and you give this council less strength than any of the individuals. And you give all the people the ability to veto the strongest ones that are most at risk of doing something disgusting and vile. You give them the ability to veto any decision that the UN makes. What's the goal of it? What's it supposed to do? Like what?
It's a lot more symbolic now than it used to be. I guess they used to actually pass legislation and sanction people, and what now it's the UN is a joke, I think, at this point. Like you had a post once. Seif posted this one meme highlighting how the UN and NATO are presented in like textbooks and how they really are in real life, and they're kind of like scrawny and weak in real life, but big and muscular in the textbooks.
Yeah, and it's like a complete joke, right? And I think that especially it's kind of cool. Like, again, everything I've learned almost has been in the past like 3-4 years. Like, again, like we said, we're 19, right? So being demystified about all these things, like the way that we have this impression that this is this way, that this is that way, and then finding out, oh, UN doesn't do anything. Oh, NATO isn't doing anything. Oh, everybody folds for oil, right? It's just interesting to see.
Okay.
I have a question for you. So with like gas prices going up the wazoo, what do you think? Huh?
$2, huh?
Yeah, well, I think in Edmonton we have it like $1.55, but I heard estimates of going up to $1.85.
Apparently Nova Scotia's gonna have another price hike at night.
Yeah, but what I think is have you heard of Trudeau's carbon tax? So the way the carbon tax works is that it's it's an ever increasing tax where every single year it's increased by a set increment. So last year, this is an estimate I got, it's about 9 to 10 cents per liter is just from the carbon tax. Now, just some Canadian statistics, right, is for the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, it measures the inflation for an ordinary person, right? And in Canada, we're at 5.1% increase in inflation, where if you remove oil from that number from 5.1%, it's a 4.3% increase. And that was last month in January. This is before like a lot of the stuff started happening. So just oil alone has caused a 0.8% increase in people's pockets, has caused it to hurt a lot more. Now,
our country's been free falling into debt for the past 2-3 years.
What's interesting though is that we've gone up just this month alone. It's about 16%. This is an estimate I came up with just looking at the current prices and then comparing it to the prices from Stats Canada. It's about 16% increase in oil just February, but we're not going to have official statistics on the CPI updates until March 16th, so that's something I'm really watching out for.
Now, can we talk about like some important stuff, like really like important and like really groundbreaking stuff,
Yeah.
the Euphoria finale came out.
Okay. I don't watch Euphoria, bro.
Honestly, for the people who do, I thought the show was pretty sick. The play at the end so in the show, right, at the end, they direct a whole Broadway play.
I heard about this. I've seen this on TikTok.
Honestly, I think Euphoria might be one of the best TV series out right now.
Okay.
And the streaming numbers do support that.
Yeah. No, the streaming numbers support AOT. AOT supremacy.
As a person who's really invested into like writing, and I always pay extra attention to the writing and the character development.
Mm-hmm.
The directors of the show really make a good job at giving every character like their full, like they explain why every character acts. They explain the small like intricacies about their personality and stuff. So like for example with the Nate fella, right? He saw his dad cracking out dudes.
Yeah.
And that fucked him up from like a younger age. So there's this one scene where him and his dad are like wrestling.
Yeah.
And he started slamming his head on like the ground, and you could just see it's like a broken kid, right? In other TV series, what they would normally do is they would just villainize the good-looking white guy, and that's it, and just create him as a one-dimensional character. But in this show, they really show the characters as they create people. It's not a character at this point. They create multifaceted people, multifaceted characters. And apparently, I also heard this rumor is that the Fez character was supposed to be getting killed. Remember the drug dealer that was kind of slow?
Didn't that little kid get killed?
Yeah, the little kid got headshotted. But also like
probably should have put a spoiler warning. I mean, we did say the finale, so
honestly, the show is pretty good. I don't
wait. How long ago did the finale come out?
2-3 days ago.
2-3 days. Okay, yeah, it's their fault.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's your fault. It's like one of the best TV shows out right now. But I also think it's very like so this is something that I can kind of relate to more. The way the show portrays addiction is so powerful.
Okay.
You can see like Rue, the main character, Zendaya, as she's falling into addiction, seeing it like actively hurt people, and seeing the pain it causes her, like knowing she's actively hurting people, but she just can't stop. Because sometimes, if it's not addiction, it's suicide.
What do you mean?
I feel like people who resolve to that type of addiction, they only have like two routes. It's either addiction or suicide. So they're really just trying to stay alive. That's why you see so much like selfish traits. That's why she's acting very selfish, because she's trying to stay alive.
So you're saying people are in this really bad position, and then their only solutions is either they kill themselves or they fall into addiction. So that's why they fall into addiction, to prevent themselves from having those suicidal ideations and to run away and cope from their depression or their anxiety or whatever.
Also, the show's got like mad hot chicks. That's why a bunch of dudes is watching. It's like a guilty pleasure show. It started as a guilty pleasure show. I was hate watching it at first, but then it was just too fucking good.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so now let's switch topics real quick. UFC 272, Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington. My money's on Colby Covington. Colby Covington will probably be throwing a large like quantity of strikes. Wins by decision. Interesting fight. Not enough build up, I think. We could have seen a lot more interesting trash talk. If they stand and fight, the first 2 rounds will go to Masvidal. Later on, Colby will out-wrestle him. Masvidal will gas out. Masvidal's gassed out before. You can use the Kamaru Usman fight as an indicator. Colby's fights were always a lot more fun. You can argue that Masvidal had like his first fight, he was excused because he had to make weight on like 5 days. But I think it's also like it also caught Kamaru Usman off guard. So Colby Covington by decision. Put your money.
Interesting take. Don't know much about UFC, not gonna lie, but I appreciate your rundown and your breakdown of what's going on. I appreciate your opinions. You got more to talk about?
Yes, so we're gonna talk about the music industry now.
Okay, so what's up?
NBA Youngboy came out with a new album with DaBaby.
I heard about that.
NBA Youngboy is also coming out with a new album with Quando Rondo. So obviously the beef between the NBA crew and OTF is heating up.
Yeah.
OTF being Lil Durk's crew, right?
Yeah.
Lil Durk released a single dissing Youngboy, right? Right now the stats are at 17.1 million views on YouTube, charting at 22.
Holy.
Yeah.
That's
but
crazy.
Youngboy 16.4, charting at 16. With Youngboy's album coming out, he's expected to sell at least 60 to 90,000 units first week. That's not too bad for an artist who's like completely shunned by the by the industry. I'm not a Youngboy fan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not like YB, but I'm not one of them people.
But you think Youngboy's been shut out by the industry?
Yeah.
What do you say that?
His label is trying to portray a certain image of like, this secluded gangster guy and create a mystique about it. And through doing that, they kind of bar him from working with a lot of different artists. He also has this like beefs and stuff, and like it gets stupid because everybody knows each other, so you're picking sides at this point.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So as an artist, like him making it on his own, I can kind of see how it's respectable. Just not a Youngboy fan though. He's overrated. Music's alright, but overrated.
I think he was bumping like a couple of years ago, back in like 2018, or maybe it was like 2019, 2020, I think. I think it was really back in high school, everybody was bumping Youngboy. I remember that. Like back when you had NLE and 6ix9ine and
who's the hottest rapper out right now?
Hottest rapper out right now? I feel like, I mean, outside of like Drake and like those like...
Is Drake the hottest rapper out right now?
I mean, Drake got like what? Artist of the year? I mean, artist of the decade?
Yeah, but Drake just does numbers. He's not in conversation every day.
No,
he could if he wanted.
No. Drake went up in the league of the GOATs. Like if you're talking about, especially our generation, if you're talking about the new guys, all like we don't know who's gonna last. We know people are gonna know about Drake in 20 years. Right? Are they going to know about Lil Baby, Lil Durk, all these other guys? I don't know. But people are definitely going to know about Drake. And think about it. Even 6ix9ine. Do you think anybody's going to know about Tekashi 5 to 10 years from now?
Lil Pump.
Lil Pump. Everybody, Lil Pump was everywhere. And then he disappeared in 2 seconds, right? Drake is definitely not going to be one of those guys. Lil Baby, Lil Durk, NBA Youngboy, all the Quando Rondo, they still have to prove themselves, in my opinion. I think for them to get that legacy, you know what I mean?
I don't think Quando's solidified as a GOAT of anything yet.
Yeah, not at all. But, I mean, Quando Rondo was really bumping back in the day, you know what I mean? Like, back in the day, as in, like, 4 or 5 years ago, you know what I'm saying?
Now, can we talk about the long jump women recommendations that I've been getting on my YouTube?
What are you even getting at?
So...
Why are you watching women's long jump, bro?
On my YouTube, right, I've been getting long jump... recommendations of women and so of other people, and most of it is just the girls in super revealing outfits, and it's not objectification because I'm supporting female sports.
That's great, bro. That's really great for you. So you're just getting a lot of
no, because like they've got like these super athletic shorty just jumping and flying.
That's super interesting.
That is
super interesting and in-depth.
That's so perfect.
So like we were getting at, we have a wide array of interests, especially as Aly's like really showcasing. He really loves his women's long jump. I really appreciate the sport. It's amazing. I'm gonna look at what I have.
A lot of them have a great future behind them.
Yeah. What do you think about the new Kanye episode? Let's talk about that. The Genius
documentary.
Yeah. What do you think about the ending?
I've only gotten through the first episode. Not gonna lie.
You haven't gone through it?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll give you a breakdown. This is the spoiler alert. That he should have gave for Euphoria, but I'm not going to actually talk about Kanye. So, episode 1 is building up to the college dropout. It's about him getting signed to Rockefeller Records, right? Episode 2 is him getting college dropout out. So, in Kanye's whole discography, the first 2 episodes are leading up to the college dropout. I was concerned about this. When I heard about the documentary, I was like, whoa, 22 years of friendship, 22 years of this, filmed the entire time, you know what I mean? You heard the hype, right? I was like, yo, this is going to be amazing. And it was. The first 2 episodes really humanized Kanye, really put him down to earth, and really was incredibly inspirational, especially the through the wire parts of episode 2, which you didn't see, which was crazy, right? It's about him actually being in the car accident, getting his jaw all messed up, his face bloated. He's lying in the hospital bed, and he's calling up his friends. Yo, I got this song idea. And his whole jaw is wired up. Yo, I got this song idea. Let me rap it to you. And then dropping through the wire and filming the music video and getting himself big and trying to push his album out when nobody would take it. And then when he finally got it out, number 2, triple Grammy. You know what I'm saying? But amazing. Like up to episode 2, it's amazing. But then Cootie in episode 3 messes it up, man. Like he really, really messes it up.
I have a question. Did you watch the Last Dance?
No.
Okay.
Well, let me just finish on this. So Cootie messes it up because I thought what would be really cool about this was there's this big mainstream message about Kanye, mainstream opinion that he went crazy, that he's, you know what I mean? So I thought this was going to like put a new light on him and put a new flavor to the story. Cootie comes in and he's like, yeah, after we dropped this, Kanye got all Hollywood on me, and then he wasn't really messing with me much, and he really changed and all this stuff. And then he started talking about his kid. And
so what is he no longer recording footage?
So he wasn't recording footage for like 10 years. The only time that he started recording footage again was after I think it was like Pablo,
After the life of Pablo?
Yeah, exactly. That's when he started recording footage again. So he missed out all throughout late registration, all throughout graduation, all throughout My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Yeezus. He wasn't recording during the George Bush doesn't care about black people. He wasn't recording during the Taylor Swift thing. He wasn't recording during any of that, right? And then he just pops in, right? And then he starts recording for Kanye again in like 2018. Like he wraps up 10, 12 years of Kanye's most controversial life in like 30 minutes. And then just comes in at the end and is like, so now we're recording and it's cool seeing Kanye work on his fashion brand and work on this. And it's just garbage.
Do you know who Dame Dash is?
Yeah, it was all throughout the
So have you heard about the new football league he's starting?
No, what's going on?
So Dame Dash went on the Shannon Sharp podcast. I don't know if people really gonna care about this, but it's something that I do care about.
Yeah.
Dame Dash went onto the Shannon Sharp podcast and claimed he's gonna be taking over the football or the sports industry now.
So what does that mean?
He made a bunch of claims about not liking how the owners are all white of NFL teams and how it could be like allusion to slavery.
Yo, he's been reading too much.
That's kind of what Kaepernick said. But then when the people came out like in opposition to Kaepernick, they said, "Oh, you can't compare slavery to football. Like it's a disgrace, right? Because they're not even on the same playing field." So that's I don't know. I don't think there's inherent racism in sports. He made the point that if black people just stopped playing football would disappear, which is true with almost every sport.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
What happens if black people find hockey? Once they start heating them fucking ice rinks up, it's over for white people.
Well, the thing is with hockey is that a big barrier of it is socioeconomic. Like
golf and winter sports in general.
Well, no. The difference between hockey is it costs a lot of money. Like golf is only high affluent people play golf, right? But hockey, it costs you like $4,000 or $5,000 to get training, to get this, to get the equipment. The equipment's crazy expensive. I don't know. I never played hockey personally, right? But just having friends who did, they would always say like, yeah, the equipment was crazy expensive. So there is like this big socioeconomic barrier where you have to make X amount, which is what I think keeps
keeps all minorities out of
the that's what keeps minorities out, right? Like, I'm not making a controversial take when I say like minorities are lower socioeconomic, white people are higher socioeconomic. Therefore, a sport where you need to be incredibly rich to even practice is mostly white. And I think if like actually black people started playing with their like crazy like fast twitch fibers and all that stuff, you know, especially like West Africans and all that stuff, if they started playing, bro, I think they would done.
Can you imagine we start seeing black people jump from the midway line on in hockey rinks?
Bro, I'm telling you, once they're gonna cancel hockey, like as soon as that happens.
It's done.
All the stadiums are gonna get, Rogers Stadium down the next day. As soon as the first black guy gets,
all they gotta do is just start heating that shit up. It's too cold.
It's too cold.
It's too cold.
Why are we playing? It's Edmonton. It's not even cold out here. Ice? Never heard of
this. This is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
This is crazy. Me coming just newly to this country, as you might have heard on the llast episode, depends when it comes out. It might come out before. Okay, so episode 2, you'll hear that I just came to Canada 2020 or July 2020. I still do very fob stuff to this day.
What do you mean by that?
Like, if there's snow outside and it's not stepped on, I'll go and run and jump in it.
Yeah. So you're just like a little kid. I think that's what we all did when we were like 4 years old. Like, we were so excited to do snow angels and do this and do that when we were little children, yeah. And it's probably just now that it's your first time seeing snow, so you want to do that stuff.
You know, my first time seeing snow wasn't even like... It was so anticlimactic. I heard from this other girl that came from Spain that the first time she saw snow, she started crying.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We talk tomorrow or on episode 2. Yeah, you're gonna be hearing about Joseph and
what happens in the forest fires. When are we gonna see forest fires this year?
What do you mean? Probably this summer. I mean, it happened last year a lot. Do you not remember with?
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah. It's just I don't know. It's very weird how it's like routine. You guys expect forest fires to happen
because it gets so dry.
and it gets super smoky out here in Edmonton. I think this is something that I got like. I was shocked at this the first couple of days that I got here.
You know Fort McMurray?
Is that like a little...
Yeah, the little town that does all the oil stuff. They had a crazy forest fire a couple of years back where like the whole city was basically like burning down.
So what happens when you guys get like a lot of ash and bad air quality here?
It's nothing close to our winters. Not even 1% as bad as our winters. But yo, I wanna get on something. Like, you're talking about the football stuff and it being racist, right? And just, I remember, this is from my friend's sociology textbook where he's talking about here, this is just a quote from my friend's sociology textbook. He says, if you are a fan of North American football, you have watched the scene countless times. A white guy, the center, flanked by 4 white guys, offensive guard and tackle, snaps the ball to another white guy, the quarterback, whom all the 5 white guys try to protect. This white guy looks up, sees that there are several mostly black guys coming after him, and so hands the ball off to a black guy, the running back, sometimes jokingly called the running black, who gets tackled by the onrushing players. If the running back is stopped before advancing 10 yards, another white guy might come in to try to kick a field goal.
Isn't it like, don't NFL players disproportionately beat their wives? Is that crazy to say?
I mean, yeah. I mean, there was that huge controversial. Did you see that controversial video? I don't remember the player. Like, I don't follow football.
There was the player who just recently was caught drunk driving and killed this lady.
No, there was a player. I don't remember his name because I don't really watch football. He beat his wife hard. Like, search if you can search it up.
OJ Simpson.
No. Past that, he was. But I mean,
he beat her past what OJ did to.
No.
That's crazy.
Of course. But
free OJ.
It was like really, really bad.
Henry Ruggs,
was, like, crying right there
Henry
too.
Ruggs III drove more than 150 miles per hour before.
I think it
fatal
was.
car crash.
I'm searching it up. I think it was Zach Stacy. Zach Stacy really beat. But I think the thing is that has to do with the aggression of a sport, right? And just like, and brain damage and everything that comes from football. But just talking on that race card, my friend was really mad at that. He said he felt like a lot of camaraderie, and like one of the least racist spaces were football teams and all that stuff, and that there was this big sense of like fraternity that came into football, and he was really upset with that racial narrative.
Why is it that a lot of athletes go broke after playing professional sports?
Because they get so much money so fast. They get like these
The lack of financial literacy.
Yeah, they get. I mean, you take a random poor kid, right, who's really fast or really great at like doing this.
At 17, you're living in the projects. At 18, you're making 7 figures.
And not just that, you're making 7 figures. What people don't realize is when they say like $1 million per year, you're getting those in small, like, per game, and that's only for a part of the season. So you're getting like $1 million over the course of a month, 2 months.
I think what happens with these people is that the luxury tax is what ends up bringing them to their knees. Because once they get out of the league, whether it's basketball, football, MLB, they still have to pay all their luxury taxes and property taxes.
Well, I don't think it's that. I think it's mostly that they don't have a sense. It's like winning the lottery. Like, as soon as you win the lottery, what's the first thing you're gonna do? I got $5 million. What's $10,000 out of $5 million, right? What's another $10,000 out of what's this? And then after a while, on your 4th month of spending like $100K, right? You're at what, 4.6 million? That doesn't matter. Why? That doesn't 4.6, right? So, but then now you've become like used to the lifestyle, used to this, used to that. Then you get into debts, then you get into this, then you get into that. And there's nobody really teaching you how to manage money, how to do all this stuff. And the few guys who actually learn, even in music, you see the same thing. A lot of these guys make a lot of money, then lose it really quick. Whereas there's the whole
especially during COVID when everybody couldn't tour, you saw artists going on OnlyFans. Rappers was on OnlyFans.
Serious, I didn't even hear about that. I'm just saying, I think it's like Hov and everybody who like be doing a lot of this stuff. They actually learn how to manage money, and it takes them like a mile away. You know, it does the most for them. But for a lot of these guys, it's just like winning winning the lottery. You know what I'm saying?
It's like T-Pain. T-Pain's gone broke like 3-4 times in his life.
Even Kanye, before he became a billionaire, I believe.
50 million in debt.
Yeah, exactly.
He rapped about it so many times that, you know.
I mean,
I know the number.
Even Trump, I think, was before I think he was 50 million in the red before he made like his first billion. I remember reading that back in the day that Trump went like dead broke.
I used to watch what's that show they used to have?
What are you talking about?
The Apprentice. The Apprentice.
The Apprentice, yeah.
I used to watch The Apprentice, and I remember when I saw him running for it, I was like, "What the fuck?" The guy from Apprentice is.
Trump when he ran for election. I think that was the biggest leverage that Trump had was that he wasn't
a businessman.
No, he wasn't a politician. Like it wasn't. He was the guy. he was breaking these norms that people have, these expectancies, right? Where you had like Bush Jr. and then, Obama was a big surprise, like no doubt about that, right? But then as well,
Obama also, I have a very strong stance on Obama. I think Obama was a career politician and just a token president that they put in there so they could completely ignore the black agenda. Obamacare was just a lot of money being funneled into the pockets of different insurance companies. So, yeah, you could see he got lobbied in, or he got voted in by lawyers and by Big Pharma. So, like, these were like his biggest campaign contributors. So I have a very strong opinion on Obama and how shitty of a president he was.
Yeah.
If anything, he pushed back.
I remember hearing that he had these like Terror Tuesdays where it was so common for them to bomb like Iraq and Syria and everything that they like nicknamed it Terror Tuesdays and everything. And I think what was interesting as well was I remember Hillary Clinton's emails got hacked on WikiLeaks and they were exposed, and she was calling Muslims sand N-words. She was like, those sand N-words with the Israel and this and that. And nobody was talking about it.
Do you find it interesting how Arabs like Trump?
Yeah.
Have you not noticed that?
Yeah,
A lot of Arabs kind of lean towards Trump.
I know a lot of do, yeah.
Even Arabs who have nothing to do with the West, like family living back home in the Middle East, they'll still like, yeah, I like this Trump guy. He knows what he's talking about.
I think it's because he shows that
it's the personality.
Exactly.
He's a polarizing character, so there's
not the polarizing. I think that he's a strong.
You don't think he's polarizing?
No, he is, but that's not the aspect I think that attracts a lot of Middle Eastern people to him.
You think it's his conservative ideals?
No. I think that it's the fact that he's kind of like the stronger leader, that like he makes a lot of strong statements. Like he says, Mexicans are this or that. He says Muslims are this or that, and he just says it blunt, straight away. Whereas Biden's kind of like, you know what I mean? And it's that's the difference. Is I think they like somebody, especially have you been seeing
inflation and asset, that stupid son of a bitch.
But have you seen even Boris, how he's been talking now?
Uh-huh.
So powerful, so strong. Out of nowhere, he starts talking like a man. You know what I mean? And I think people are like, I think that's what attracts a lot of, especially Arabs, because we have those values. I think that's what I think. I don't know.
I think the UK's PR team should invest in getting him a hairstylist.
100%.
This guy's hair is crazy,
and his whole outfits and everything.
But also he's lit.
Yeah,
Boris Johnson is lit.
I mean, I think all of
took over after Brexit.
Everybody in UK, I think, hates him though.
Yeah.
I think that's the mainstream thing that I'm.
Have you seen the United States recently created 680,000 jobs apparently this February? I
heard that the unemployment rate is going up though. I remember hearing that. I don't actually. This was a month ago when I last checked in on the employment statistics.
I'm very solid on this statistic. And during the month of February, they increased created 680,000 new jobs.
So what's interesting though is that what's happening right now in the States is we have an aging population because the baby boomers are retiring. So with a lot of the new jobs that are coming in, there's still a less of a labor force. Do you know what I'm saying? So even if we're having more jobs, there's still less people actually employed because more of the baby boomers are retiring. You know what I'm saying? And there's obviously less amount of Gen Z than there are baby boomers because they're huge. You know what I mean? So we're definitely going to start seeing the impact of that. That's the main thing is, I'm a big guy on demographics and everything. So one thing is, if you think about a country, GDP is production, right? People in the working age, which is 15 to about 65, that population is what funds the entire country. And everybody over 65 is kind of like this economic sink. All the money flows into them and then it just gets burnt. So as the population starts to age, as more people move from the 15 to 65 range to the 65 plus, which is the baby boomers, what they're doing right now, the worse the economy is going to get, the less jobs that are going to be available, and so on.
Other than the federal budget being exhausted by all the pension programs.
Exactly. I think we're going to see pension programs go down the sink.
For sure. Once Trump gets in, he's cutting that shit down. What?
You think Trump's
Republicans don't play with that.
You think Trump's coming back?
Nah, Republicans are honest, yo. If you're not working, why are you getting paid?
No, but you just said once Trump's back in, one, you think Trump's going to win the Republican election.
Definitely, Trump is going to win the election, running with Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida.
Okay, yeah, we'll see.
Governor of Florida really put on during the whole Corona shit.
I don't know. I'm really watching America. I think like, you know, I'm on my academic conspiracy stuff. I think there's a huge, and it's not just me, a lot of people, they think there's a huge Great Depression coming, huge.
Do you think we're in the Great Reset?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I think this. You know, I think this. One thing to note about China, right? Especially, I think the big Great Reset, why it's important, is to look for people who are coming out. And I think what's interesting is that China's GDP has 95x'd since 1976. And in America, they've only 20x. So their rate of growth in GDP is 5 times the American growth, right?
And China has capitalism to thank for its growth.
Yeah, I mean, it depends
starting from Shenzhen, later on, China has capitalism to thank for its growth.
They have capital markets, but communist. I mean, it's called the Communist Party.
Shenzhen was supposed to be a special economic zone where they allowed foreign countries to come and invest in China.
Yeah.
Hong Kong was supposed to be the gateway between the West and the Chinese market.
Yeah.
And once Shenzhen adopted this Shenzhen became a special economic zone, it started flourishing. Obviously, though, communism decentralizes power, and when you have a power-hungry government, but also, like, they handled the COVID stuff a lot more efficiently because they said do this, and like they said jump, and people said how high.
Well, that's the main thing. Is what really like kind of infuriates me is people's reactions to how hesitant and slow we were in dealing with COVID. That's the beauty of democracy. That's the purpose of democracy. If we were fast with dealing with COVID, you know what else we would have been fast in dealing with? The Islamic crisis. When all the same people that were saying, oh my God, you need to get masks, you need to get vaccinated, you need to do this, you need to do that. Rewind 20 years ago, and you know what they would have been saying? They would have been saying, oh, we need to get rid of Muslims. They're harmful ideologies. They're harmful this. They're harmful that. The reason we have democratic systems is to make everything slow. There's no right. There's no wrong. Everything is slow. There's no right is fast. There's no this is fast. Everything is slow. That's why we dealt with COVID so long. That's why it took so long to deal with it. That's why China is doing a great job at dealing with with the COVID crisis. They're also doing a great job, and in case this isn't clear, I'm being sarcastic, dealing with their Muslim crisis, with the Uyghur and the camps and all the stuff that they're dealing with. They're doing an amazing job at exterminating that problem. If we're gonna implement the fast way China has dealt with COVID, we're also gonna be taking back home the fast way they're dealing with Muslims.
Okay, so the U.S. being the only country to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Japan caused Nelson Mandela to say this quote. Nelson Mandela said, "How could the U.S. be the police officer of the world? How could they be the humanitarian officer of the world
after
the most tragedies?"
Yeah. I mean, that's a great.
Do you feel like the United States is policing the world right now? Do you think they're right? Do you think they have the right to police the world, being the strongest?
Does anybody have the right to police anybody? Like to police the world at least? Probably not. And definitely, you're right. Like the U.S. is.
Have they moved on though from?
Not willingly.
Abu Ghraib?
Not willingly.
Let me just say this to the viewers out there. If you have some free time, go look up Abu Ghraib. ABU space GHRAIB. It's a prison created by American mercenaries in Iraq to torture Iraqi nationals.
No, that's crazy. And
they like raped them and did crazy stuff there. Look it up. I'm not even gonna say it on here.
No, but that's absolutely insane. And I think this is where we can wrap up the episode, call it a day.
On a bright note.
Yeah, on a bright note.
And on a bright note.
On a bright note, but thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you had a great time. Please make sure to share, subscribe, do all this stuff, put it out there, send to your friends, let us know.
And also, like, if this wasn't perfect, just give us some time. We're still
learning, we're still adapting. Some jokes are out of tune, some of this is out of that. Sometimes it's going to be too loud. We're still learning, we're still pursuing our knowledge, we're still curious and we're still trying to learn as much. So if you have any criticisms, we'd love to hear them. And if you have any questions for us, we would love to take them in and we would love to answer them. We'll probably, if you have any more, we'll answer them pretty soon.
For sure.
And we're going to be, I think that's it. I think we're really excited for what's to come.
Thank you guys for listening to Curiosity Clique. See you on another podcast. Please like and subscribe. Goodbye.
Are you for real? You said that it's over, but you never stuck to